If I wanted to make a chameleon from the ground up, this is what I would do, right from scratch. I would start in childhood. I would constantly make sure that the child always knew who had the power, who had the authority, and where their place was. If I wanted to create a chameleon and a people pleaser, I would make sure that their feelings were incorrect, that maybe their thoughts were incorrect. I would set the status quo. I would say, this is how to feel, this is what to think, and this is how to be. I wouldn't support my child's needs and what they were experiencing in the moment. If I want to create a chameleon and someone that bends over backwards for people in their life, whether it comes to bosses, authorities, relationships, I would make sure that they don't know how to feel, that they don't know how to regulate, and that whenever they actually have a feeling or a thought, I tell them differently so that they don't create that self-trust. If they become a chameleon or a people pleaser, they won't know how to honor their authentic self because they will not have the practice and they will never have that experience of really trying to listen to their own feelings and thought and to choose that, because they will always have to conform and choose what the superior person at the time is suggesting, strongly suggesting. If I want to create a chameleon, this is what I would do. I would always change where they are. They think something, feel something, and I would shift it to what I think. I would always make sure that they know who's in power and who's in charge. Becoming a chameleon means at some point when I was little, I learned to not trust myself and that what I was feeling was not okay. If I'm a chameleon at a very young age, I would have had to learn to abandon myself early, and that I should not choose what I think and feel, that what I think and feel is probably wrong. That, and then growing up as an adult means that, say I start to actually progress in recovery and I start wanting to be who I am, I'm going to feel like I'm in trouble. I'm going to feel guilty for being who I am because I'm not used to being who I am, because I don't know who I am, because I've never been able to be that person. So it will feel awkward for me to try new feelings, to allow myself to have feelings, to allow myself to think differently. I might even think things and feel guilty and have an old tape playing from when I was a child from, say, an adult that was, it could be a parent. I'm going to have that voice in my head every time I'm trying to have my own thought and feeling. And until I override that and override every feeling or thought that I think I should be feeling and thinking and start choosing my own, I'm still going to be that people pleaser. I'm still going to be trying to adjust myself around people, trying to observe my environment very carefully, making sure I know what everyone's temperature is so that my temperature is okay. Like, I'm going to be, until I really get in the face of that and start practicing that in every transaction I have with someone, every situation, and honoring all my feelings, I'm going to remain that chameleon that adapts to everyone. And growing up like that, I'm going to be really good at that. Like, that's a really easy, safe way, like a very, proven way for me to stay safe, because I've already been doing it forever. So to remove that layer of protection will feel super vulnerable. I will feel so exposed, so awkward, so uncomfortable. And lost because I'm not going to know what to do or feel because I haven't been taught to actually let myself feel the feelings I want to feel. So I could be a person that actually doesn't have very many feelings at all. Like I know for myself, I came into program sobriety and I only had like three feelings when I first started, like happy, sad, mad. Like I didn't know all the other like 100 feelings that there were. And it wasn't till I started to really identify feelings in my journey when circumstances happen that I started to understand that there's a lot more going on with me. And so becoming a people pleaser, my own story is that I was around someone very emotionally chaotic. And so at a young age, I had to hide a lot. And at a young age, I learned that other people's emotions and thoughts and what they did were more important than mine. And also, I learned that I shouldn't be acting that way. I shouldn't be feeling that way. Like if I was sad, I need to like hurry up and stop being sad or get over it, or I shouldn't be mad about that, or I shouldn't be happy about that. I was always told how I should feel. And I attracted partners also that dismissed that. But it also is kind of tricky because I was also dismissing that. So then I was attracting similar things to what I was. And so because I wasn't feeling, I was attracting people that weren't feeling. I was attracting those emotionally unavailable people in my life. Dismissive avoidance. I didn't start, stopping and changing until I really got into my recovery journey and practice with feelings works. Practice thought stopping. Practice working with another, trying to change my mind in the moment, and that's why like phone calls was so important because something's happening in my head and I had to stop it with help and then rewrite a new thing to say in my mind. It's complicated. Recovery is hard. And, I don't have the same struggles that I had in earlier recovery, but, a little bit more down the road now, I really do believe like at that time I thought I was okay. But looking back now after all the work I've done, like there's lots to undo. Like basically I've had to undo my entire childhood and look at every single thing, like why it happened and what I was feeling in those moments. Because sometimes I noticed I would have triggers in my life and, and especially by intimate partners, I'd be triggered, like my trigger, and it would be for a long time. But when my trigger's a long time, it indicates that there's some kind of wound from childhood that I got to look at and, forgive myself or feel or resolve. Like, I don't just like accept it and it's over. It's a process. Like, all my healing is a process. And even turning everything over and getting to the root. My codependency, my addiction, like the reason I've had addictions in my life is because I have codependency, and codependency is born from childhood. And it doesn't mean that I have to have a heavily traumatic childhood. I think my childhood was like semi-traumatic, but daily traumas, small traumas, like aggressive parenting or, explosive emotions. Like my childhood was just different because I didn't have physical harm, but I had a lot of emotional harm. I had a lot of emotional neglect. And I became a child that that wanted to be safe and loved. And then as an adult, I still wanted to be safe and loved, but I did it with all destructive patterns that hurt me. And it wasn't until I got to a coda room that I really started to like look at my psychological journey and my emotional journey on a real deep level. And it's in the last few years, it's really, really changed my life. But a chameleon is, and I have to be aware of this even with my own children, is that like giving them that space to feel or have their experience and to not rush them through it. Like I really also heal through my kids because I practice the things that I'm learning and healing from. And then I try to, take the bad that happened with me and transmute that out to be good, transmuting it out into love. Like that's my job as a mother and a creator, is that like I'm born and I'm on this planet and I can choose how I create that experience within myself. I can't control everything that's happened to me, but I can choose what I do with that and how I release that back out into the world. Like that's what I get to do. I get to choose how to do differently, and I get to own my own story, my own experiences, and my own thoughts and opinions. And then I get to do something with that. And I can put bad into the world, or I can try to put some love into the world. I could try to make a difference in my kids' lives. That's the kind of impact that I can do. And seeing like really, I have boys, so I know that a lot of more often with boys, it's been really ingrained to not feel and not be and not think like that and be a good boy, be a good girl. Like there's been so much pushing and dominance to perform and be the best. And then when you're not that, like, then you're in shame. And the thing is that letting my kids just feel the mistake and the feelings that go along with the mistake and letting them fall, and I'm there to catch them when they fall, like to be there with them, but just like letting them have those feelings and experience, and then they realize that they're okay after. They realize that a feeling isn't going to kill you, and that's just a learning experience. So now it's okay to make a mistake, and now it's okay to feel. And then my job as that parent is to give an instruction, guidance, or help understand maybe what has happened, if this is age appropriate, and if someone is actually has the capacity to even listen in that moment. Like maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it'll come up at another time. But I believe that people pleasing and becoming like a really good chameleon happens from a very young age. And it happens when kids are pushed out of their experience and out of their body. And I think that the kid is trying to be safe. And so it's just better to conform in that time. But if a child has to conform in that time or appease the parent, then they leave themselves. And then that really is destructive against self-esteem and self-trust, which is a huge thing to be able to have in your adult life and in relationships. And just speaking from experience, like I had terrible relationships my whole life and addictions, and it wasn't until I got to one of these recovery rooms that I really started working on like giving myself the time that I didn't have when I was a kid, like doing all that inner child work and giving myself the nurturing and love and safety in a healthy way now. Like now I give myself that, and I make space for that, and I honor that, and it is number one. It is super important. I listen to me first. I listen to what I think. But when a person is starting out, it feels like walking through a thick forest. It feels like static. It feels like it's all wrong and in the wrong way, but it's just because, it's so new, and it will end, like it does end, and it is so worth it. And I'm just very appreciative for my journey today, but I do believe that a chameleon is made, and it's made from that, that kind of like forced environment. And it doesn't have to be like aggressive force. It can just be like conformity or having to be a certain way. Like instead of like supporting a child through their experience, through their mistakes, loving them through it, and that they don't have to be a certain way. Like that's kind of my angle. And, being in the rooms and just seeing like how many people out there are stuck in people pleasing, being a certain way, being a different way, not knowing what their feelings are. And because they didn't have that time when they were a child to learn those very, very valuable things. And it's just a huge thing in the rooms of addiction, and a really common theme that I see very often. So yeah, that's my little take on becoming a chameleon. And I hope this helps someone today. And I hope that you like what you are hearing here. And yeah, so see you the next one. Okay, bye.